But first, with everything going on in the world right now, it's easy to feel like sports are superficial and silly and a distraction from more important issues. And while I admit I too have felt that way a few times over the past couple days, I've realized now that no, sports are important. And not just because they serve as a welcome, much-needed distraction from our impending doom and overwhelming feelings of loneliness and fear, but because they actually serve a concrete, practical purpose. Guys, sports are gonna get us through Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's right. Thanksgiving is next week. That special time of year when we all travel back home and realize why we live somewhere else now. It's not all bad. It just might make you rethink your position that this was the worst thing to happen on a Thursday this year. But it's okay, like I said, sports are here to help because there are tons of little lessons we can learn from the sports world that'll help us get through the parts of the day that aren't naps. First, when you gather a big group of people that spans a bunch of generations, a few things are gonna get lost in translation throughout the day. Like when your dad asks you if you hooked up with your brother that one weekend he was in New York. No, Dad, but you can hold off on passing that butter because I just killed myself. Sometimes you can ease the uncomfortableness in these situations by making a hilarious joke, like Cowboys fans did this week when the NFL's official account tweeted, Dez, after a Dez Bryant touchdown, and then they responded in droves, nuts! Get it? Because D's nuts. Man, you think somebody would have caught that, like Dez caught it. But if the awkward innuendo happens in the middle of a more heartfelt moment, well, then it's probably best to keep the jokes to yourself, like I had to on Tuesday during Tony Romo's really nice and sincere press conference when he said this.
I feel like we all have two battles or two enemies going on. One with the man across from you. The second is with the man inside of you.
Don't I know it? If the people in your family are so embarrassing, you feel like you just can't take it anymore, think of this.
Ooh-wee! Ooh-wee!
Yeah, you thought your cousins made you uncomfortable. There's probably gonna be a ton of delicious food around, right? So this is important. Guys, listen up. If someone is choking, it's probably a dude, because a study found out this week that male athletes are more likely to choke under pressure than female athletes. I mean, definitely help your uncle or dad or brother or whatever. Just be sure to remind them of this once they are, in fact, breathing normally again. There's gonna be some fighting, I'm sure, there always is. But it's important to keep in mind, guys, as Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan reminded us this week, sometimes going head-to-head with someone you love can be painful and have unintended consequences if you're not careful. You gotta be careful, guys. And if you do get into it with a loved one, remember that it's not always enough to say, well, I wasn't trying to hurt you. It doesn't matter if you meant to or not. It still hurts. Just ask Contavious Caldwell-Pope's balls. Yeah, whose names, ironically enough, are Mike and Steve. It may not always be easy, guys, but sometimes the right thing to do is to just apologize, even if you know you're right and they're wrong. I learned that one from Conor McGregor after he beat Eddie Alvarez at UFC 205 last weekend.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants.
Nope. I'm sorry. Sorry, that was actually terrible advice. The real Thanksgiving lesson that we learned from McGregor this weekend was that on special occasions, there's nothing wrong with going up a weight class. But everybody knows the most uncomfortable thing about going home for Thanksgiving, besides belts, is having to answer a million questions about your life. If you're really serious about avoiding this altogether, I recommend learning magic. Because I was watching that David Blaine special last night, and when he regurgitated a live frog into a glass and left Steph Curry speechless, I was like, that would probably do it. But if that looks too painful for you, well, first, I assume you've never been asked by a relative about the viability of your eggs, but there is another way to just avoid it all. This year, I decided to call a pre-Thanksgiving press conference where my whole extended family could come get all their questions out of the way at once so I could spend Thanksgiving in pieces of pie. It was a real Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here at the official pre-Thanksgiving Nolan family press conference. I will start taking questions from this side of the room.
Sweetie, Aunt Ruth from Worcester. Hi. How's work in a big city?
Oh, it's good. It's good. Lots of Yankee fans, but we put a bench for Poppy in Central Park, so now it kind of feels like home.
Hey, kiddo, your Uncle Bobby here. You're looking so thin. Are you getting enough to eat?
Oh, thanks, Uncle Bob. There's not really any Taco Bells in New York City, and so I've cut down on my intake of cheesy gordita crunch. But thank you for noticing.
Kate, your mom over here. Your brother just got engaged. Are you putting some thought into when you're gonna settle down?
Congratulations to Kevin and Julie. Very exciting. Really happy for you. Love you guys. But I'm just really focused on my job right now. It's a lot of work, so it's that's where I'm focused.
Well, I saw you had that Anthony Rizzo on the show this year. Why didn't you bring him home?
Yes, Anthony Rizzo was on the show. Very nice guy, but he did just win the World Series, and so I think he's a little busy. Does anyone have any
But,
other...
what about that Taron Killam from SNL? He's a cutie.
Yes, he is a cutie and a married man. So can we move? Does anyone have any other questions about... Dad, are you here?
Over here, Katie.
Hi.
So I hate to nag you on this, but can we please talk about that IRA I asked you about 3 months ago?
Yeah, I still don't know what an IRA is, but I promise this time I mean it, I will Google it. Guys, I only have time for one last question, so do we have one?
Katie, it's your cousin John.
Hi, John.
Hi, we got to talk about the election. Obviously, there's a lot of implications here for...
Christmas.
I'm sorry, why Christmas?
We'll talk about it at Christmas.
Well, I think we should talk about it now. I mean, obviously, it's going to affect not just you,
Christmas.
your family, your friends, the entire
Christmas.
country. The nation as a whole really has to...
Christmas.
You can't just keep repeating Christmas and pretend like we're going to forget the question, especially with enormous political implications.
I know, I actually agree. It is really immature and wildly irresponsible to do that. Thank you all so much for coming. I'll see you at dinner. I don't know, my family's from Boston. I really thought that would work on them.